Just a few more days of trading left on Wall Street before the end of the year, and we're taking an in-depth look at how markets performed in 2024. And for his take on how stocks did this year and what to expect in 2025 when it comes to the bulls and bears, we're joined by Dan McClory, Managing Director and Head of China for Boustead Securities. Welcome as always to the show, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Karina.
And what a year it has been when it comes to U.S. markets. As we close out 2024, I'm interested to learn from you anything you're watching in particular. There's been a lot of volatility recently, and everyone is wondering if we'll see a Santa rally.
There certainly has been a lot of volatility, but I think, Karina, we've gone from sort of stay alive until 25 to thrive in 25. I think we're going to see a continued resurgence and reinvigoration of the capital markets. And an area I'm particularly focused on is with initial public offerings. Those have been in a nuclear winter over the last 3 years, but they really started to take off this year, and they're headed for an absolutely spectacular year in 2025.
Yeah, we did see a slowdown and then a little bit of revival. So it's interesting that you say we'll see more of them come in the new year. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about AI stocks because they have dominated the year. Most definitely. They've delivered remarkable returns. NVIDIA, the kingmaker in the sector, if you will, but starting to show some signs of a slowdown into the end of the year. So what happens with AI in the new year? Is it still the thing to bet on, or do we see more broadening? Should people be looking for some less overvalued options?
Well, clearly it has hit an apex. I mean, NVIDIA, $3 trillion market cap. I mean, off the charts, spectacular. I think you're going to see not only a leveling off, I think you're going to see a more widely applied usage of AI. It's not going to become the panacea. It's not going to become the secret sauce or the magic dust that maybe it was. It's just going to become an everyday part that's built into businesses around the world. So rather than more kingmakers or a doubling down on those that have already been anointed, I think you're going to see the adoption of AI, which is going to lead to general business resurgence for a variety of other stocks.
And what about crypto? We saw Bitcoin rise past 106,000 just recently, but now it's hovering in the $95,000 to $96,000 range. Where does it go next year, in your opinion?
It keeps going. I mean, with the Trump administration that is avowedly so crypto friendly and that is making sweeping changes from the stewardship of the SEC to just the laissez-faire regulation that's going to set in. I don't think we've seen the highest for crypto yet. I think it gets to a 125 or even 150. We're just now getting the effect of all of the buoyancy that's seen from the Trump presidency. And I think when he actually gets in office and starts implementing these changes, it's going to go even higher.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with that as it becomes more legitimate in the financial world. Now, I want to talk about the dollar for a second because it is completely out of control. It is so strong. Does that trend continue? And what impact do you think a strong U.S. dollar has on businesses? Do they use it as an excuse to help temper earnings expectations?
I think they do. I think they take whatever leverage they can get. And even if it's temporary, even if it's exchange rate base, I think, again, they're going to run with it and see how far that it takes them. I think the tariffs that have been discussed earlier, I think those have to be looked at. And I'm one of the same camp that says it's just a negotiating tactic. It's not really going to come to pass. But I don't think there are going to be restraints or policy that are going to put on reining in the dollar. I think it's going to be left to run.
Which brings me to my next question. How does a Donald Trump presidency impact markets in 2025? What do you think are the biggest market and economic landmines that we need to watch for in the first 90 days of the new year?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe Trump's approach is intentional disruption. So we know there's going to be disruption. We know there are going to be things that go way against conventions and norms. I think they have to be looked at as what's negotiating, what's going to evolve into real policy. But probably the biggest threat, the biggest unknown that's out there that this administration that's coming in really doesn't have full control over is monetary policy and what's going to happen with interest rates. We've seen the signal from the Fed, but I think if interest rates are gotten wrong, that's going to have certainly a downward effect in the economy. And ideally, the interest rate environment is gotten correctly and monetary policy is entered into with growth in mind.
Do we get to the 2% target the Fed is hoping for?
Yes. I think that happens. I don't think it's going to happen so much from cajoling with President-elect Trump as it is just from the soundness of mind ruling the day.
So you think in 2025 we get to that 2% target?
Yes, we do.
All right. Well, we'll wait and see to see what happens with that. Let's switch gears a little bit. The World Bank has just raised China's GDP forecast for 2024 and 2025. What impact does that have on the global economy?
Well, certainly it's a sign that things are coming back everywhere, right? You can't have the second largest economy in the world being in some form of doldrums or downward movement and think that the world economy is going to be buoyant anytime soon. So I think it's going to be seen and recognized as a definite overall positive, and especially considering the decoupling and the reorganization of supply chains globally, starting with the effects of COVID and even going beyond that. So if China can relaunch the economy after having to rebalance along with the rest of the world, then that's quite a feat.
Really quickly, only 10 seconds left. Where do you see the S&P 500 ending 2025?
Up 25%.
All right. Well, we'll wait and see. Thank you so much for that, Dan McClory, for your time.